The bishop says she doesn't cry usually, so you know, microphone, but also you don't have to be.
Well, you know what I'll do is just take this table down and make these rows. Talk amongst yourselves. We got about 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Talk amongst yourselves. Samson, if anybody's afraid of him, we've got a leash here for him to go on. So who would be afraid of you? He has turned 10, which is really good for a 94-pound dog.
Heal our sorrows according to your will, and help us always to believe that what happens here has no power to separate us from your love in you and in one another, which is eternal. Amen. It's based off of a prayer in the BCP on page 461, should anyone want to ever go back to that. So I want to welcome you heartily and to start off so that your expectations are set accordingly, and hoping that I don't, miss the mark on your expectations, but understanding that, well, that wouldn't be the first time, so we'll just roll with that, and you can tell me what you need from me in the future. So, as I spoke to the Bishops' Committee last night, I started with this sort of introduction, and Father Jason asked if I would give that again, because he found it to be helpful. So, if you're on the Bishops' Committee, yes, I am repeating myself, but hopefully for a good reason. So, you received news that hurt, right? And you received a letter giving you information about your beloved priests, your preacher, your pastoral counselor, and your sibling in Christ, learning that his physicality is being affected by an illness, and that hurts deeply. It strikes to the bone, and especially when you've got so much going on and the church is so vibrant, and to imagine him having to step out of that, not because it's time to retire, but because his body says it's time to retire, is not what we want for Jason. It's not what we want for Andy. It's not what we want for everyone in this congregation. It's not what we want for future people who come to St. John's, right? I mean, we don't want this. We're clear about that. And so naming that is really, really important. The other piece to it is when we get news like this in a church setting, what happens is our anxiety goes into overdrive. It's natural. It happens in every single church, whether the person is leaving because it's time to take another call or because their spouse has to move, whatever it is absolutely is we talk about it. And we're present with each other in our sorrow, in our joys, our remembering, our hopes, all of that. That's what time it is right now for us to gather as the church and to be fully present to what's inside of us. Even things that may be easy for one person to name, may be really, really hard for someone else to name. Because every grief that we go through in life taps into every other grief we have gone through in life. It doesn't start at zero, okay? And so if you've gone through a really hard time and Father Jason has been there for you, through the death of a family member, and he was the rock that helped your family get through the worst day they could imagine, that's going to hit differently than someone who comes on Sunday, right, and may not have ever sat individually with Father Jason, that sort of thing. So everyone's experience is different. So you can't even say we're all in having the same experience, we're all in this the same way. So the purpose of this night is not to answer all those questions that you want to ask, because that would be when I'm going to say that, and I have a kind of whole section on that. That's getting out over our skis, right? So like we need to be like this, and right now we're in the receiving of the news, the joining together to recognize that if you're hurting, the person you love is also hurting, right? And so when we let the system get too anxious, then we actually waste the time we have together. So don't do that part, right? All have together. Now, I think you can only do that with my assurance that we're going to get to all of those questions. And about 6 weeks out from Father Jason's last Sunday, we will, the Bishops' Committee will roll out an application for the search committee. And so anybody who feels like they would have the executive skills to be on the search committee, the experience of the congregation to be on the search committee, then you will be able to fill out an application, and then the Bishops' Committee will go through those and make sure that all demographics of the church are recognized and present, right? So that we don't get, 5 people who are really good at doing X and nobody who has the skill for doing Y, right? And so some of it's that everybody is probably qualified to be on the search committee that loves this church. But that doesn't mean that we can make a committee out of, just a random people. So when that happens, then there'll be a time for the congregation to come together. I will be present in more times than you normally see me. So the way we work transitions in the diocese is we have a canon to the order, and he does what I call all of the back of house, and he does some of the front of house, and I do some of the front of house. Front of house deals with Bishops' Committee, all right, or the vestry. The back of house does all of we will be walking beside you. That's what the job of the diocese is to walk alongside you. And it doesn't mean that we're perfectly. I was joking about not meeting expectations. Well, when people are anxious, they have a lot of expectations that may or may not be able to be met, or that they forget to tell us our expectations, right? And we go through those times. You know it. We've all been in that place. So our job is to do this as Christian siblings who love God and love one another and know without a doubt that God has this congregation fully embraced, and that I've always believed the next priest is on their way to you. I just know this to be true. And it is challenging to let God's time be God's time. It's challenging. But what I found so when I got here, we had 8 congregations open. And in that time of learning, filling all of those congregations, that I realized that the best things that happened often were the no's, where we got all the way to the end, even when poor St. Luke's got 2 no's before they got to Ashley. And they will tell anybody that walks up there that Mother Ashley Girling is the best thing that has happened to them. And they were so glad they got the no's they got, because now they know that they weren't looking for the right thing. So I trust the process. I'm going to sound a little bit like Weight Watchers here. Trust the process. But this is you're praying. If you're letting who you are shine through and not some image of a great church that has to attract someone, don't go there. Clergy can sniff that out 100 away, and so they're not looking for perfection. They're looking for a place where they will be loved and they can love the people and not be quagmired in a bunch of game playing. That's what people are looking for. So y'all got that. So be you, trust the process, and pray sincerely every time you're together. But right now, you should be praying for your priest. You should be enjoying your priest. You should not be putting anxiety on your priest because that's rude. So don't do that. All right. How was that? That cover it all? Well, that brings down my average. All right. All right. So tonight, what is tonight about? Outside of what I just did, not an information exchange, but really a pastoral gathering of God's people together. And we're asking during this night for God's, and I want to say, that Jason is a part of this, that we're asking for God's companionship, God's strength, God's grace, and guidance to acknowledge, in helping us acknowledge the loss that we feel, and in helping us realize that to everything there is a season, and that some seasons are short, but they're glorious, and we would never change the fact that it was a season that we got to experience and go through, and we can kvetch that it was short, and God can take that from us because God's okay with that. God will take our tears, and God will take our sorrow, and God will, how could you? And God will hand us love every single time. Little pastoral note. When we go through life and hard things happen, it's easy to say, God, you brought me to St. John's, you knew how much I needed this. How could you now let Jason get sick and an illness come in? The time that we waste looking to God for the cause will be time that we miss God's comfort. Because if we're focused on the cause, we're not seeing the comfort. We're not seeing the angels that surround us constantly. So in not just in this hard moment, but in life, remember, God is not in the cause, but God is always in the comfort. And the sooner we can move our vision to the comfort, then we will find our way through that which is really, really, really hard. And it doesn't make it easier in the way of, doesn't dissipate our sorrow, our grief, and our lament. Sometimes it just helps us live a more full life in the presence of that grief and that sorrow and that lament. But when we grieve because mostly we grieve a barometer of love in some ways, I might say. When we feel grief deeply, we can say, that is because I loved deeply. We've got, 3 puppies around here right now? 3. And how many of you have ever had a dog die and said, I can never do it again? I can never, ever do it again. I did. And now I have Samson. And I was like, okay. And he's brought me so much joy, so much joy. And I didn't decide to get Samson. Samson came to me and said, oh, God was in the comfort of me that I didn't even know I needed. And so when we can look for those signs of comfort, then our life will be rich indeed. So what happens, for everything there's a season, but what happens when we hate the season we're in? Hate it. I was thinking about this today, because that line kind of came out, and then I was like, we have to turn to our faith practices. And I was thinking about the word practice, and that faith practice is an interesting way, we can say faith disciplines, but I actually today convinced myself that I like faith practices better, because practice means to practice the embodiment of our faith. And what we want to do is practice our faith to embody it in such a way that we have spiritual muscle memory, so that when we go through hard times, our prayer is there with us, right? Our centering is there with us. Our joining with community is there with us. The hymns are there for us, right? The Psalms, that's what they are, is one big giant lament. And when I said that God can take what we hand, look at the Psalms, bash their heads, and by the end it's like, I love you, God, and thank you very much. And you're like, oh, people have always needed to get that out of their systems, right? And so I think that we need to think about those faith practices that we have and that St. John's gives you and has taught in, and it's in really the fiber of being here. Our faith practices true and deep, the receiving of communion, and not just for you alone, but so that you are nourished for what you will need during the week and what you will need to offer to others during the week. We are fed so that we may feed, and we are fed so that we may live, right? And so we think about those faith practices. So I'd like for you to think just for a second about, let's skip something. Let me do this first. I want you to recall that moment when Jesus was with his disciples, and it's like John 16, and he's with his disciples, and he says, and he's telling them, this is not going to last forever. This is coming to an end. And he says to them, because I've said these things to you, sorrow has filled your hearts. I think that might have been the hardest thing that Jason had to do in sending the letter, was to say, when I send this, I know that sorrow is going to fill their hearts. And that's not what a priest does. That's not their calling. That's hard, but it's also faithful. It's faithful. So one of the great and often resisted truths of our faith is that, grief isn't the opposite of faith. Grief and struggling and trying to find God where it feels like God is not, that's not the opposite of our faith. It's that grief is that feeling where sometimes love doesn't have anywhere to go, and it goes into grief. And to realize that we were given grief as one of the emotions of human existence. And so it serves a purpose even if we don't understand it. And one of the things that I've learned through years of pastoral care and the privilege of walking with people in the dying process and then with their families and friends is that grief is really hard work. And if you don't attend to it, it will come out weird and sideways. It just does. So to keep your church healthy is a way of saying we have to name, we can't say, look, he's been gone for 3 months, get over it. Because grief taps into all other griefs, right? Go back to that. Go back to that. And everybody is going to feel this differently. So as a church, what do you do with somebody when you're in the presence of somebody grieving? You sit and you listen. And you bring them a cup of tea or coffee at fellowship time and say, how are you doing? What is it feeling like? And good weeks are good weeks, and hard weeks are hard weeks. And we can say that to one another. If we can't tell the truth about how are you in church, where are we going to do that exactly? And I said last night, if we can't cry in church, where are we supposed to cry? Like in the shower by ourselves, right? Yeah. My sister can't make it through a church service without crying. Like, I swear she dumps all the grief that she, her intuition brings in throughout the whole week. And that organ starts, she's just crying. I can't even look at her. She's in the congregation when I'm preaching. I cannot even make eye contact because she is just pouring tears. But it's not always, it's like Shrek. This is the theology this is the level of theologian. Phyllis, Jason, Shrek. It is, better out than in, right? Like you let the grief out, and you talk, and you just don't hold that back. And that we know, and so when you see somebody crying in church, don't worry about them. Pray with them. Just know, like, you don't have to move towards them if they have snot coming out their nose. Tissue's nice. I mean, that's really good. That's lovely. But sometimes people need to know that they can not be the center of attention and cry, right? And so we have to figure out, you have to read the body language. Keep an eye on one another. Keep an eye on one another. As church, we are taught how to walk through grief together. And one of our best services in the whole prayer book, I think, is the burial office. People will come who are outside the tradition and be terrified to come. And when they leave, and they are filled with a joy, because it's a resurrection Easter-tide service. They're shocked. I don't know how many times, and I don't think I've ever done a funeral or a memorial service where people haven't said to me, I dreaded this so much. This was beautiful. Yeah. So we know, as Episcopalians, we know how to do this grief thing. And there's actually a page in the prayer book that we can turn to, and it can be the loss of a job. It can be that, my sister just moved to Germany. I hate that. Very happy for her. Hate that, right? And so, I can go and find comfort in the practices of our faith. We commit to not carrying the burdens alone because Jesus said, don't do this alone. Don't do this alone. That's not how humans are made. And so we trust that God is already present in the future we can't see. Let me say that one more time. We trust that God is in the future we cannot see. All right. So, naming how it feels. What's the emotional temperature here and now? And this is your question. Are you sad, mad, angry, fearful? You know that chart? Have you ever seen that emotion chart that you put on? Yeah, like any one of those is fine. Hopeful, joyful. That's the other thing. Don't be afraid to be okay. Just because some people are not okay doesn't mean you can't be okay. You can be very much okay. Some people are very practical. Well, he's sick, he can't stay, he needs to take care of himself. We're okay, we're going to be fine. And you're going, right? We get to all be ourselves in this. But just shout out like just words. Loss. Another word that taps in to the other losses that we've had. Love. Does lead the way. One more.
Is there
a word there?
apprehensive?
Oh, yeah. That holds a lot. You got some kudos on that one. Apprehensive. And that's one of those words that'll get us like this out of our skis, right? Yeah. But it's okay to feel when you say, I'm feeling apprehension. Okay, what do I need to do about that? Centering prayer, writing a note of all the things that I love about the church and how strong I know it to be. That kind of thing. Adrift. Loss. Grateful. Hope. Concern.
Basically for Jason.
Okay.
And Andy.
I think Andy's in the nursery. Yeah. So one of the dangers that happens when we feel strong emotions and they're connected to our church is that individuals tend to withdraw. It's too painful to come to church. And when I say grief is work, sorrow is work, lament is work, it means that we don't let hard feelings steal from us what God has given us as a gift, which is the community gathered. Because the only way through the valley of the shadow of death is to walk. Yea, that we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. That's right. Our faith is there for us, right? Our practices are embodied in us. And so it sometimes, I went up a mountain in Virginia, and it was going up to the Appalachian Trail, and well, it was part of the Appalachian Trail actually, and I was walking, and then I was walking, and then I had to make a decision whether I was going to continue or not. And because I couldn't even walk like just one foot in front of the other, and then I found out that if I walked with half steps, so I went, toe to insole, or instep, then I could make it. And I've never hiked in half steps before in my life. But that is sometimes how we have to move through. Half steps, quarter steps. We move through in that way. And then slowly, you realize the terrain isn't quite as steep, and I can move back into a more natural rhythm. And it just takes work. All right. So, if this community has been a source of strength and joy and love and healing and hope for you, then that is embodied in you. Lean into it, tap into it. It is in the fiber of your being. Nothing, no one can take that from you. Right? Grief, what did Jesus say? Death has no power here. And grief is a form of dying to the joy within self, right? So, we don't rush. We take the steps. We're healthy in our transition. We don't need to fix everything before we honor it. These are just little tidbits of wisdom. So, as I look around this congregation, one of the most amazing experiences I've had in the diocese is watching this congregation come together. And yes, we know that a few people wear many hats. I mean, that's everywhere we go, right? It's just church. It's life. But I also know that, like when the clergy were here for their retreat last year, we had people who were coming in to bring parts of the meal. They didn't have time in their schedule to stay. They didn't have time to serve you. They just came and bringing parts of the meal, right? There are so many hands and hearts that serve here. And I want you to remember that it is the fullness of the body of Christ that makes St. John's what it is. It's not one person. And if anyone said it was one person, he would think, I failed. How did that happen? Because that's not Jason, right? Jason wants to lift people up in their life in Christ, in the community that is one body. So the church isn't a building, it's not a priest, it's not a program. It's the people of God gathered, one body. Now, wait, one last line, and then we're going to go into some questions. So, 2 lines. So, one, I don't know the full history. I've heard the full history, but I heard the full history of all the churches kind of at one time, and I was not able to maintain that in my brain. And probably even if I got it now, I wouldn't maintain it in my brain. I have an aging brain, as many of us do, and all of us do, really. And so, but what I do know is that St. John's has weathered challenges before. So how many of you have been through past challenges in this church? Just raise your hand high and strong. And you made it through. Are you stronger today in some ways? I think probably so. Yeah. I don't know why it is, but we learn more through the hard times than we do during the easy times. Daggone it, I hate that part. So we can go back to what I hate. Not loving that either, God. Not loving that. But it's true. And so when we maintain who we are through our challenges with our faithful dignity, then that helps. And let me just tell you what faithful dignity looks like right now. For you and for Jason and for Andy, it is the prayers that are needed. It is the love and the appreciation. Neither you nor Jason nor Andy needs your worry and your anxiety. They are not useful here. They're not in service of you. But your love, your joy, your belief, your prayers, knowing that, Jesus said, God's got me, and God's going to have you too. And he looked at his disciples. God's got Jason and Andy, and God's got you. And I don't know what better promise we need than that. So, I want you to have some table conversations. If you don't have quite enough people at your table, you might join, or you might like one-on-one conversations. If you hate table conversations and you feel like I just did a bait and switch, sorry about that. I don't know that we've ever had church gathering where we don't have table conversations. Yeah, sorry. I know some people just abhor them. So you can say, God, really hate this, and that's fine too. So I would like for you to just share around the table in any way that you're comfortable, and around the question of what are you carrying in your hearts tonight about as you think about this transition. And this is just brief. This is like popcorn in a way, like kind of like really, really long stories. Well, the first time I experienced grief was when I was 3. We don't need to go quite there. But if you could just give some heartfelt, and then if you can't, say, I need to pass. All right? Because all are invited, and none must do what you just don't. It's what do they say? Oh, wait a minute. There's a phrase at camp. I'll come up with it in a minute. Something by invitation. And so if you just would look at each other, and then we're just going to do just a few minutes on that. So again, Frank just left you. Frank's like out of there. Frank, how do you feel about table time? So if you really hate table time, you can go hide in the kitchen with Frank.
I'm anxious about this, especially with also Jacob being there. That also makes me I have a little sorrow in my heart, but I'm trying to trust something better.
Susan was here.
Makes me mad that I didn't appreciate it more.
I was on the Bishop's right here after I joined St. John's. And after I joined St. John's, the priest left. You can't do that. Because I had left a terrible priest. And that was part of my searching, you know. And so Steve was wonderful, but he left. And so then we had COVID. And I was amazed. It was hard, but I was amazed at these people did without a priest. Ben gave a sermon, Mark gave a sermon. We had services every day. And then, of course, the search committee reported to the bishop's committee in Logan for months. And I had the neighbor, Jason, Andy was wonderful. And I said, my emotion, I think, of today is gratitude that I had 6 years ago.
I was thinking it not too like Scotland. Sure. Like you're free to pass. But I don't, I mean, he definitely, like, I was working at, I went with very few investors in Canada. I
Like there's
In many ways, you know, there equal with Jason, and then we did some more investigating. This person is not a choice. And so it was almost like bubbled up to the top.
About a minute, Marty.
I think though that, Bishop Yashin was really with us during the process, the previous bishop, but she has said, Jason, travel with us, support us, everything that we need to process. So, I trust him. I trust him because in his case. And,
All right, bringing it in.
anyway.
trust that the right person will help.
Now you have the option if you want to stay at your table or move tables. So, and that's not offensive to the people that you're leaving, but if you want to like hear what other people are thinking at other tables, you're welcome to do that, and you can just, you know, musical chairs yourself around. So, well, the second question is, what are some of the gifts that Father Jason has given to this congregation that you hope will continue in the spiritual makeup, as it were, of topography of St. John's? So what are some of the spiritual gifts or some of the gifts that Father Jason has given through his ministry that you hope will continue at St. John's? Oh, wait, table talk. Table talk. That was me. Second question for table talk. There you go.
I've made pictures really and like his sermons are very judgmental. They also try to go hard hitting points, but not a good religious background, and then I started
I know of only one other priest in my journey with religion and faith who was never like Jason and Shazar. That was Father Bob Busby. St. John said, yes, we'll walk with you. And so I heard someone, this is just good for us, but can share that. And it's a tall ask. Maybe it doesn't happen right away.
Jason's always been so involved and in touch with I feel like the first time we met him was like we were at Logan Pride, and we were at the came up to the booth and was like, oh, who's this man? Like, oh wait, and his husband. Oh my god. I was like, that rocks.
One of the things I struggle with
During COVID, they're just so easy to get it. Well, you get a little
I'm like, yay, my interpretation.
So that wasn't one of those things. But then, writing
All right, there we go. That sentence. Now I want to move another table talk question. Now, the question towards you all, which is, what strengths do you see at St. John's that will help you navigate the time of transition? What strengths do you see at St. John's that will help you navigate this time of transition?
Yeah, I like that. I feel like it keeps everybody safe. It's not literally we have our membership here.
Selfishness.
Yeah.
This community is amazingly selfish. I can see that in some of it's really hard working.
That's really interesting.
Decades beyond the church, St. John's has been an extremely responsible steward of Jewish financial resources. So, we're in a position someone who has a family, 3 kids, they need to have a place to live. So, we're not currently financially St. John's. So we have something.
To stay connected, you know, like I like it when people say but that's just for what?
My supervisor apparently was never been to the gathering. It's been really, really good. And now I'm working at those. We're on a full.
His husband usually came to St. John's.
It's actually made by people.
But he does use ambulatory. His wife loves tomorrow's documentary.
Yeah, I might be able to bring some fresh ones.
Farmer's Market and the Summer Fest, you know. She's ambitious.
About 30 more
Variety of
seconds.
events to get different overlap, you know. Something for everyone, I suppose. Or all for one if you want. If you really have time. Yeah, if you have the time. I want to go to the I got to yeah. There's no I was going to make some like things, so.
Well, thank you all so much for engaging. This has been fun to watch, and I don't even know what you're saying, but it is the intensity, and then the joy, and then the really leaning in when somebody's talking. It's wonderful, wonderful. As I said to Jason, look at this sign of a healthy church. You and to inform you in this community. For what is. So let's report out just a little bit from the tables, and if we could, so look at each other right now, and it's the Cheshire Cat moment. Point to the person who is going to do the speaking. Oh, look at that! Wonderful. They can just shout out. All right, if you selected someone with a very quiet voice, that quiet voice can come up here and use the mic. And not in full, but let's think about what was a concern. So just what's a concern? Go.
Remember, I had
intention was that we might be losing members of the congregation while Jason's gone. And in sharing that, Amy said something really beautiful, which she's going to share now.
Early on, when Joseph and I started attending here, we had a discussion about about what would we do when the day Father Jason isn't here anymore. Because our faith is shaky. We're new here, and all the traditions are new. It feels so foreign, and he's such a comfort to us and our family. And we had to quickly come to the realization together that it's not just Father Jason. We love you, but we love all of you, and you helped choose Father Jason. And we have to put our faith in that we're a family, and you chose him, and so we're going to choose the next priest, and it's going to be okay.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. And did you hear how different that was than sweeping the fear and anxiety underneath the rug? That's not the same thing, is it? That's acknowledging this is the anxiety, but wait, we have resources and comfort within this anxiety. That is beautifully stated. So it's what was the fear? I can't remember the exact question that I asked. It was, what was a concern that you all had at your table?
Just any one of them. The one that comes to you first.
Well, I mean, I guess Jason's been so great, you know, I'm just concerned about trying to keep that going, but it's also, yeah, I mean, that feeling, you know, we're in a stronger place as we've been, so, yeah, keep that momentum going.
Keep the momentum going.
Well, Janet mentioned that she's just concerned about how the church is how it's gonna go. And can we keep the momentum that we have now? Father Jason.
Excellent question. And probably, how many people are in this room? 45, 50, something like that. 62. That's right, 62. There are probably 62 answers to that. All right.
There are a number of concerns, of course, but I think the one that we expressed in general was just concern for Jason and his health, and knowing that this is not what he wants and not the way that he wanted to be, and just being with that.
Beautiful. If someone from that table can come forward, and that table, and that, just if these tables could just come forward. I can't reach the mic over there. Thank you. Yes.
Come on now. You express.
Hey, yeah.
Unless you really loud voice, and you can just do it from where you are. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right
I was a school teacher, and I still got a playground voice. We discussed a lot, of course, on our feelings and our concerns, but we also talked about our community and the love that we have for each other, and that we have to have faith that the people that are on the committee to do this will do it for all of us, and they'll pick someone as close to Jason.
Or said another way, faithfully choose the one God has brought to you.
Well, it's basically the same thing that Kathy said, but also, I've been here long enough that I know how long the process takes, and that's a little unsettling. I know we can get through it. I'm just sorry that we have to go through it.
Yes. Yes. It stinks.
At our table, it wasn't so much, I'll say the main concerns were just for Jason's health, but there was a lot of comfort in the community and knowing that this is what he needs is being a decision. And more than anything, just it was too short. We're going to miss it very much. And that's what is so hard right now.
I'm not sure there is another Jason in many ways, right? Beautiful, beautifully molded by the hands of God.
Now we can cry.
This is the perfect place to do it.
Jason has been one of the concerns, the general concern that Jason has just been such a pillar in this church, and he has such a way of making people feel seen. And the concern is, how are we going to find a priest that can do that? That's it.
That is right. And so we go back to those faith principles, don't we? Because we don't, but God does.
I was chosen to speak from my table, which may be the wrong choice. We won't be here.
July 19th.
We have to say our goodbyes, at least our for nows, earlier than that, and that's hard for us.
We're so happy for you.
Yes. There is no better thing, I think, when a congregation lifts up somebody for ordained life. That's powerful. And the number of lives that are affected all the way down the line is beautiful, and that's part of the legacy. Look it up, because I think it was my first time here, and you arranged a dinner, and you said, you need to sit with the young people here. They are theologians, and some of them will be priests. First dinner, yeah.
One of the things that we talked about as a concern was what is St. John's? How do we share what we are with the next person that comes? And we were so lucky with Jason that we found somebody who wanted to share who we were. Jason was here to shepherd us through our 150th, and we got to celebrate all that we had been. And on a personal note, it's been a hard couple of years, to say the least, in terms of the people that shaped me as a Christian when I entered St. John's. A lot of you are still here, and a lot of them are still with us, but not here in this room, in this flesh, in the same way. And for Jason to leave, it does feel like so much is changing. But we've been St. John's for all that time as us individuals have come and gone, and I think we'll find a way to share that with the next person so that we can continue on that tradition that we've had.
Beautifully said. Well, let's end on one more pop-up. I think I'm just going to ask for it around the room, okay? And that is actually anything you want to share. Whatever it is that you want to share. Pop it out, and then I'll have a few closing comments, and then you can ask some questions.
At our table, we talked about every sermon that Jason preaches. He always preaches about love. Every sermon. And the other thing that we brought up at our table is all are welcome. And we feel that. We are all welcome. And if we can continue with that, that's my hope. We can continue with all are welcome, we'll be fine.
As you may or may not know, but on the same day that, on the same Sunday that following the Thursday letter, the exact same day, Thursday and Sunday, Mother Holly at St. Mark's Cathedral was saying that she was leaving. And so I had the two at the same time. And I had her exit conversation yesterday, or Thursday, and took her out to lunch Wednesday. I don't even know. A day this week. What day is it today? And took her out to lunch. And I said, what is it about St. Mark's that has made it so healthy under you and Tyler before he became ill? And she said, because we preached and taught radical welcome and love every chance we got. And then we said, but you have to be the practitioner of it. So it is, the sermon isn't meant to be like a full stop, a period, like there it is. It gets to you and that's it. It's meant to be the conversation starter. But so that idea that it was the love and the welcome, well, then you're practitioners of that. That's the embodied faith you have, that you go and live with every single person that walks in the door. Yeah. Because a priest is only standing in one place, but the congregation stands in places throughout the entire community all week long. And that boggles my mind when I think about that. That's exciting.
We realized at this table that our getting to Jason was really God's miracle. I don't think he was looking for any change. And we had interviewed other people, and when he came along, the other people we interviewed, it took us about an hour and a half. With Jason, it took us 3 hours.
That's not really a surprise.
But we could tell that this was meant to be, and I just have to have faith in the fact that although he can't be replaced, that we will find something.
Amen. Yes.
I think there's a lot of acceptance and optimism because we all believe that God. Oh, there you go. Oh, that's a shocker.
I think, correct me, yeah, for sure. There's a lot of acceptance for where we are, and there's belief that God will bring the appropriate person into our fold and into our family. I also just want to articulate that we're also suffering other losses. We're losing Anna, which we're deeply sad about. We're losing Jacob and Auburn, for at least the short term. Many of us have had personal losses recently. And as you were saying, each grief compounds and brings up the other griefs. My takeaway is that it will be fine, it will be good, it will be full of love, and God will bring the right person to us. I just want to acknowledge that we are deeply sorrowful for all the people we are readily means.
What's the deal with Anna?
Anna's moving to New Mexico.
No!
And now we're going to have to do the whole night all over.
Great.
Something that just struck me is how we've been talking about losing Jason. But what just occurred to me is you are in all of us, and you will always be here with us, even though we don't get to see it all the time. So thank you for giving of yourself to us.
That's a pretty spectacular place to end that on, unless there's burning desire. Wonderful. So, a couple of things that I want to just to reiterate. We do have a date for Father Jason's last Sunday, and that is September 13th. Okay, so if you're gone then, you can moan. But September 13th is going to work out well for Andy and Jason's transition, and so it's hard. I don't even think Jason's quite willing to put all those syllables in that month and date yet. The diocese is going to walk closely with you, right? So remember that we are not congregationalists. You don't stand alone. You are connected to a much bigger system. We have senior wardens and search committee chairs who have gone through this, who will work, will share their documents with you, they're praying for you. We have morning prayer twice a week at the Diocesan Center, and we pray for our congregations in transition. We have been praying for Jason and for St. John's, for Andy, for a very long time, and we will continue to do so. And we believe prayer matters deeply. So I would also suggest that, you pray for St. Paul's, you pray for St. James, you pray for St. Mark's, as they are all, that's 3 of our parishes right there in Salt Lake City who have been without their priests. And they have gone through Christmas and Easter, and we have made it through. And we had the Basin, the 2 congregations there, and they have a new priest that has just started. And I thought that was going to be almost virtually impossible. And they have called a Native American priest for the first time. So with God, all things are possible. So we don't need to know everything about our future. We just need to know the next faithful step. And for you right now, my hope is that the next faithful step will be to enjoy the time that you have to pay attention to one another, to build your community ever stronger. When you want to isolate, when you want to draw in, embody your faith. Turn to someone else and say, I could use a listening ear, right? Or I just might take a little time off work and come to the knitting circle. Not that I knit, but I bet they have fun there. And that you laugh and you are just truly who you are as St. John's, because you are a precious, precious gift in this diocese. And I want you to know that you are a star in the crown of God's own throne. And so God will take good care of you. That's what I've got. There endeth my part of this night. But what I would like to do is, if there are burning questions that we might not even answer right now, but we could, but I don't want to change too much where we are right now. I think you're in a really, really, really good place. But if you have burning questions, why don't you can come up and ask me. But remember where your skis are and remember where your center of gravity is right now, okay? All right. God bless. Tomorrow we show at 1 p.m. We show the documentary Atelier, which is on the boarding school out at we're on the property of St. Elizabeth's. That was the Indian boarding school that was there for many years. Before Craig Worth, well, actually for the first 2 years I was here, Craig Worth and I worked on this documentary with Forrest Kutch and our historian Kurt Cook. And so people brought documents to us that they had been hiding almost because they knew one day there would be the right place to put them, and they didn't want them to get destroyed. We got pictures of children in these schools, and some were good and some were not so good. We got records of deaths, we got records of births, we've got, things. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and bring you peace. And the blessing of the Father and the Holy Spirit be with you this night and always. Amen. Sleep well that you may rise in glory.
Okay. Tomorrow, besides the one, remember we have 2 opportunities. She actually talks to people.
More than you might want.
So feel free to come up and engage. If it's just hi or introducing yourself, but that's an opportunity. And then again, like tonight, if you have to questions, but I'm grateful. This is the first time in my almost 34 whatever you're able to do tomorrow, just enjoy. And then, of course, Sunday, we're going to celebrate. We have 3 people. Raised up in this whole congregation who are making that confirmation of faith, and then 3 others who are making reaffirmation. So that's a wonderful celebration, and just get ready. We're pulling out all the stuff.